Buckeye fans, the Buckeye Corner is your premier destination for officially licensed Ohio State jerseys, t-shirts, hats, and novelty items. Plus, when the Buckeye football team wins, you win. Save 20% off your in-store purchases on the Monday following a Buckeyes football victory. That's the Buckeye Corner, the official team shop of Buckeye Nation.
Hello and welcome to another post-game Silver Bulletin. I'm here with our Lantern sports editors Colin Haas-Hill and Edward Sutland. I'm James King, the LTV sports director.
What a game.
Yeah, what a game. First off, yeah, what a game. Ed, third quarter, about 6 and change left in the quarter. JT Barrett goes down. Talk a little bit about the impact that had on this game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, I'll be honest, I thought as soon as JT Barrett went down that was probably going to be game over for Ohio State. They were already down by 6 points. Haskins, obviously as a fill-in, has looked good at times. He's looked kind of suspect at others, and this is a Michigan pass defense that was one of the top 5 pass defenses in the country. In fact, it might have been number 1 in terms of passing yards allowed. And I thought, we see JT hobble off the field. I thought at that point Ohio State's chances are probably over. And obviously, I think we were all proven wrong.
Yeah. And then Urban mentioned in the press conference that the injury to JT didn't actually happen on that play, but happened prior to the actual game, prior to him entering the game. He said a cameraman bumped into JT's knee.
Yeah, he didn't just mention it. I think you're underselling it. That was one of the wildest press conferences I think I've ever been a part of. I mean, he was so angry that I thought at a point, like,
it was a joke.
He's serious.
Yeah.
Like, he is serious, right? I didn't want to think I was getting punked or something. Yeah. So a cameraman bumped his leg, which apparently had already been, like, hurt. Yeah, JT said it wasn't an injury.
Yeah, JT, but he did say that it's something that had happened way back in the Indiana game as well.
Yeah, it's something that seems to have bothered him the entire year, and this just sort of, he got bumped at the wrong time at the wrong place, and it nearly ended their playoff hopes. But, right, I mean, it's just a weird, it's the wildest injury that I've ever really heard of. He says he's going to play next week. Urban says that he doesn't know JT's status. Haskins just looked great at times on this field, led them to a win. Great was a little bit, I probably shouldn't have said great. He looked good. Yeah. He looked really good, especially on that first drive that he had, and then drove them into field goal range twice. And I think
he didn't make any hurtful mistakes that you might expect from a backup quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, the one dropped interception of the day was the JT one that happened in the red zone early on that I think it was so easy. I can't even believe they dropped it. But you're right that so JT had 2 drives where he combined for 123 yards. On the 7 other drives, he combined for -3 yards. I mean, they had nothing going. I thought when they scored and they tied it up at 14, I thought, I think they're going to ride this momentum. They proceeded to get they had a 9-yard drive and like a -1 yard drive. They had nothing. I was astounded, to be honest. I really thought that they would turn the tides there.
Yeah, and one of the main things that actually kept them in that game, if you look back at the Penn State game, Penn State maybe was able to put up a little bit more points, but today the defense actually held Michigan at times where Ohio State's offense wasn't really going. They held them to six points after the first quarter. What was their impact? How big was their impact today?
I'm going to be honest, I don't know that I would say the defense held Michigan's offense back. I would say John O'Korn held Michigan's offense back. Yeah, I mean, John O'Korn looked terrible. I mean, he had so many wide open receivers down the field. There were several moments during Michigan's first drive and their second drive when I really thought, he's got a guy wide open. Like all he has to do is connect, and he's got 20 yards. And he just never was able to hit his open man.
Were you surprised not to see Spate put into the game at all?
To be honest, I wasn't too terribly surprised. I think that his injury is relatively serious. He hasn't played since, I want to say it was like week 3 against Purdue. And with it being a neck injury especially, they're going to have to be really careful with him. So I wasn't too surprised that it was just O'Korn playing, although, I mean, obviously it turns out that if they had any other option, they probably would have been better off.
Now, you talked a little bit about Dwayne. today when JT went out and Dwayne came in, Dwayne did make some good throws, but they got back to that running game. You had Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins eating up yards.
They looked like the optimal Ohio State offense out there.
Exactly.
Like they were doing things like I said, and when Ohio State had those 7 drives for a combined -3 yards with JT, it's not because like JK was getting shut down and Mike Weber couldn't do anything. It was just they were doing things that just looked weird. It sort of looked like early on in the season their offense where, I don't know, JT just looks a little skittish back there. Like he's just standing there like staring down receivers, and they're not pounding the ball like they did with JK and Mike Weber. And you're right that is partially sort of the reason why they did succeed with Dwayne.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things is that when you see an Ohio State offense that isn't really working, they seem to almost go into safety mode where it's like JT just keeps the ball and holds on to it and tries to just run up the middle every time. But I think that as soon as he went out, all of a sudden you have an immobile quarterback like Dwayne Haskins, where
not completely immobile.
Not completely immobile, but let's face it, he's not JT mobile. And all of a sudden that aspect of their offense was essentially gone, and they really then had to rely on the running backs, or if they were going to use Dwayne at all, it would be to pass. Now granted, he did have one big run where it was more of just blown coverage than anything else. They just sort of forgot about Haskins in the backfield. But this was an Ohio State offense that instead of just relying on JT to give them their offense and to have to rely on a running quarterback to provide the yards, they were able to use the running backs like they're supposed to be used, and pass with Dwayne when they needed to pass it.
And like you mentioned earlier, Colin, defense wins championships. Next week they're playing for a championship, the Big Ten championship more specifically. Do you see them coming out on top in that game?
There's way more there were so many question marks heading into this week. I mean, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, they're going to enter as the favorite regardless of whether they have Haskins or Barrett there, just because they're a really talented team, even like disregarding who's going to play quarterback. I think that I mean, I'm probably going to pick them just because, I don't know, I think that they've played well enough. I think, and this is something I always go back to, is just talent wins out a lot of the time. I think Ohio State's a more talented team than Wisconsin, and I'm really looking forward to that game. It could go in, like this is just a saying that everyone says, it could go in any direction. I mean, I don't know who the quarterback is. It could literally go in any direction. I don't know if Ohio State's going to be the first quarter Ohio State today, where they have, -6 total yards in the quarter, or if they're going to be the fourth quarter Ohio State.
Throughout the year, we've continuously drawn this year back, comparing it to the 2014 season with their losses early. This year they had an extra loss against Iowa, but JT comes into the Michigan game, gets hurt. Backup quarterback comes in, they end up winning the game. Now they're headed into the Big Ten championship to play none other than Wisconsin yet again. Do you see are those similarities? Are we able to compare that year with this year?
It's tough to say. Yes, I think that obviously those comparisons are going to come up. The difference I would probably put out there is that I think that 2014, there were a lot more offensive weapons than there are now. The wide receiving core that they had that season, obviously I think everyone who started for that team is now in the NFL. And if not, it's just because of injuries like Devin Smith. And you had a running back, obviously, in Ezekiel Elliott, who is just one of a kind, pretty much. Now, I think that there is a lot of talent on this Ohio State team, and the receivers can at times play really well, and the running backs obviously at times can play really well. I definitely think this is a different kind of team than it was in 2014, but it's pretty clear where the comparisons can be made.
Anything else?
I mean, just looking long term at this team, I mean, I think I've said it the last 2 weeks. This team we thought was dead after Iowa. We thought that their season was done. We thought that they had no chance to go to a playoff. And right now, as everyone's watching, the Auburn-Alabama game's happening. And if Alabama wins, they're probably, if they beat Wisconsin, Ohio State's probably in. That's insane to say, given what has transpired.
Well, Alabama does also have to beat Georgia then next.
Well.
Yeah, they do. I think that they're going to beat Georgia, though.
Well, that's all we got for you this week. We'll see you next week at the Big Ten Championship. Make sure you look out for our coverage. We'll be on site. Also look out for our Silver Bulletin on Monday.